Just a disclaimer, about 10 minutes of the recording was corrupted, so unfortunately that bit is missing. However, there is still a good chunk of however long there is in today's podcast, so enjoy that. Let's get right into today's podcast. Okay, so welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today it is a season review of the 22-23 season. Now, obviously, it wasn't exactly the best of seasons for Real Madrid. We only won the Copa del Rey. We also won, obviously, the Club World Cup and the UEFA Super Cup. But apart from that, we did fall short in a couple of competitions, LaLiga and the Champions League predominantly. And, I remember setting the targets at the start of the season. It was make another deep run into the Champions League and to defend La Liga. And I think at the end of the day, we failed to do that. We failed to do that. And although it's good that we won the Copa del Rey, I think that would have been nice to go alongside one of either the Champions League or La Liga. But at the end of the day, we've got to look back on it and we've got to say Barcelona were better than us in La Liga and we were outclassed in the Champions League by Manchester City. So how would you sum up the season as a whole?
I think, you can sum up the season as not a failure, but it's not a success. It's just not up to the standards of what you expect from Real Madrid. Because, yes, we did say, it's difficult to win the Champions League each year. What Zidane did was amazing in 2016 to 2018. And, of course, however, the league should always be important. And we haven't, won the league back-to-back since, I think, 2008. So I believe that this was an important year to show that we can be dominant in Spain, and we haven't done that. I also told you in the past that, Madrid, had a good chance, to take advantage of Barcelona's downfall, from 2020 season to this season, and we didn't really won the league twice. And, of course, we failed to win back-to-back leagues. So that's what I'm most disappointed about, because you can't always win the Champions League. We did stutter a lot in the league this year, and it's a bit disappointing. So this season, it wasn't a failure, but it wasn't a success, and it gives us a lot of ways to see how we can do better next season. However, I must say, and I must back up Ancelotti on this one, he said, of course, we didn't win the league or the Champions League, but if you look at it, within the 2 seasons that you're here, we won all the available trophies, and that's the shortest space of time that Madrid won all available trophies in history. So I have to back him up on that. He did win all available trophies in the 2 seasons, and if you give us an option, say, okay, you're going to win all available trophies in the 2 seasons of Ancelotti, then we definitely take it. I'll definitely take these 2 seasons that we have with Ancelotti if he told me this is how it's going to play out at the start of his second tenure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And let's look at some of the results, because if you were here last year on the 21-22 season review, we did discuss the results at great length. I think we shouldn't do that this year, because I think that frankly took too long to do that, and I think it would be more valuable for us talking about some of the individual performances and Carlo Ancelotti's performances and the board's performance. So let's talk about some of the results. And I think at the start of the season, it was looking very, very good. The start of the season was, it was like one of the best, I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like one of the best starts Real Madrid have had to a La Liga season. We looked unbeatable. We beat Barcelona 3-1 in the Clásico, the first one of the season. And it was slowing down a bit coming into the World Cup. So, pre-World Cup, what were you thinking about the team, how they were playing, how we were getting the results on the board?
Yeah, so before the World Cup, I was getting flashbacks of the 14-15 season. I'm not too sure if you did remember that, but after we won the Champions League in 13-14, Ancelotti started the 14-15 season. And after injury to Bale, we played with James and Isco on the flanks in a 4-4-2. And the transitions were smooth, the build-up was smooth, the link-up was smooth, and we were on a 22-game unbeaten streak. We were doing so well. Then, of course, one result just made everything collapse. This year, I think it was quite the same. We were doing so well, and then when we slipped up for the first time, And then we slipped up for the second time. Everything just started going to hell, in my opinion, because we were doing so well that we were playing smooth football. We know what we were doing. Without then some other team was doing well. So I believe that we just didn't really pick ourselves up when we fell. We made silly mistakes in the league that cost us. We need to be up for those league games, in my opinion. I believe, in my opinion, if you have to be up for those league games, you have to have a younger squad that's going to consistently play. And that's why I'm happy with, of course, new young signings, of course, because they are the guys who are going to play consistently, not get injured. And when you have a team that's playing consistently, you can win the league. That's why we won the league in 16-17, because we had a consistent team. In 19-20, we had a starting lineup that played throughout. Last year, Barcelona were a disaster. So players couldn't have been at their best and we would have still won the league. So I'm just saying, we made mistakes, we weren't consistent in the league. And that's definitely something that we should be concerned about.
Yeah, these mistakes often happen. Last year, like you said, we made mistakes, but it didn't really matter because there was no one else to challenge us. Sevilla fell off, Atleti was not that good, and Barcelona were not that good. So we made those mistakes, and let's talk about 3 of those games, which I think 3 games did define our season. As a whole, I think they were the games that it just felt like it was beyond that point. We couldn't do anything. So I mean, talking of those games, we got to start with one, and that is the Villarreal game, the one where we lost 3-2 in Villarreal, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle of a game. I remember that game. I was watching it. It was just a game where it just felt like no one wanted to be there, frankly, and it was just complete struggle. Away from home, and we lost quite simply. I think Villarreal deserved to win that game. The second game, I think, was the most damning one. I think I remember coming on here on my own against Mallorca after the Mallorca game, and I was absolutely livid because that was probably the worst performance in a long time in the league. It was just so bad. There was nothing from the team. They couldn't offer anything creativity wise. Goal scoring, they just couldn't do anything. The Mallorca players were getting inside our heads. The fans were being abusive towards our players. It was just a horrible game all around, and all of our players struggled in that game, and we were just struggling as a whole. Then the last game I think I want to talk about is the game against Barcelona, 2-1 at the Camp Nou. We played better than Barcelona, in my opinion. I think we came to that game thinking we're going to win this one. And although we did get our revenge eventually in the 4-0 game, it just felt like, damn, we could have really put something back. And I remember thinking, if we had won that game against Barcelona, and then the game where we lost against Villarreal once again in the reverse fixture, we would only be 2 points behind Barcelona in the final few weeks. And it's just the games like those where you can't make the slip ups. Barcelona won 11. I think it was 11 1-0 games. They didn't make the slip ups. They saw out those games, and that's where we lost the league, in my opinion. That was those games where it was tight, it was edgy, and there was nothing between the two teams. Barcelona won the league, we lost the league. It was as simple as that. So what are your thoughts on that? Particular performances that you thought were defining of the season in La Liga?
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe that the first slip up against Girona was biased because we were playing so well, and it was a home game at the Bernabeu, we drew out 1-1. It was a bit disappointing to see that, in my opinion. But I believe the biggest turning point was the loss before the World Cup. Well, the second to last game before the World Cup against Blancos, when we lost away. The team were lackluster in that game, and it was a bit disappointing because I think we were on top of the league or close to, there's a point behind Barcelona on level of points in Barcelona, because we have to remember that we started the league as leaders for the first part. Then we kept slipping up the draws. Then we were level on points, and we lost against Valencia, I believe, and Barcelona took advantage. I believe that was a big turning point because, of course, had we won that game, we would have been like level on points or something like that, and we didn't. And that was the disappointing part because I think those simple results, when you look at it, was the start of the downfall in the league, if I'm being honest. Then, of course, we came back. We came back after the World Cup, and I believe that we lost away to Villarreal, like you said. I believe that was just the start of like a weird streak of games for us. We started dropping points, consistently. It seemed like we didn't really care much for the league. I also must admit we really wasn't playing well at that time. We lost the Super Cup final as well throughout that phase. But I just believe that we lacked so much, if I'm being honest. And I was really happy, to be honest, that we did end up like doing well in some games. However, it was a bit far in between, to be honest. So that definitely was the disappointing part because we know what the team is capable of. We saw how good we can play on those big nights, on those important games. Because we did so well sometimes, and on some occasions it just fell apart.
So if you want to hear any more about La Liga, obviously there are older podcasts that you can listen to. Just head down on over there. But let's move on to the Champions League because we were drawn into a relatively simple group alongside Celtic, Shakhtar and Leipzig. So it's a pretty simple group. We ended the group with 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Not too bad, not too amazing, but it's enough to get us through first place. And we were drawn against Liverpool. And within a few minutes, 15 minutes, we went 2-0 down, and then we proceeded to score 5 goals. That was when I thought, okay, this team's serious. We may have thrown the towel in for La Liga, but this team's serious about Champions League, and I think that was the only thing that was giving me hope about the rest of the season was the Champions League form, because the Champions League, it looked like this team could just turn into a different animal. Second leg, it was relatively simply sorted out. 1-0, Liverpool didn't really offer much, and we breezed past into the quarterfinals. Then we played Chelsea. We were drawn against Chelsea. First leg, it was relatively simple. Chelsea got a man sent off, Ben Chilwell got sent off, and it was a 2-0 win. It was a bit of a meh performance. It wasn't like it was amazing. It wasn't like exactly like we blew Chelsea away, and at this point, remember, Chelsea were just dreadful, so we should have really blown them away, but it was only 2-0, it was fine, it was a good result. And then second leg, same again, 2-0, Chelsea were knocking on the door, but they couldn't really provide anything. We'll talk about the Man City game next, but I want to hear about your thoughts preceding the Man City game, in the Champions League run up until then.
Yeah, I believe that the team had something special, but I also believe that we lacked something similar to last year. And I also believe that even if we lack something, we can't always depend on, let's just say, individual moments as well. Because let's be honest, we were down to the at Anfield, and of course it was an individual moment from Vinicius Junior. That gave us the first goal that led to the comeback. Of course, I just feel like we needed like a moment or like something to happen, from one player to just kickstart everything into game. So that's what I think we just lacked, a lot of. Despite winning against Chelsea, I wasn't convinced by the win because Chelsea was so poor this season. I'm happy if you look at it and you said Madrid beat Chelsea 4-0 over 2 games. You think that we were so dominant, but we wasn't. So despite beating Liverpool and Chelsea, I know that I told you that we can play the same way against these teams. These teams, despite being good teams, isn't at their best this season. None of them were at their best this season, and we met them maybe at their worst possible times, if I'm being honest. So I was kind of concerned about that. I'm going into play Manchester City, of course, the best team in the world because they just won the Champions League. So I was a bit concerned about that, if I'm being honest. And of course, my concerns should be legit because against a better team, a more tactically prepared team, we were blown away. If I'm being honest, and it was a bit disappointing to see despite the fact that we did had our moment, like I said, when Vinicius Junior scored the opener, we did have that moment, where okay, everything is starting to fall into place, and it did, because we dominated them for a lot of the game after that Vinicius goal. We did dominate them. And in that game, City, if you remember that game, City were happy for that 1-1 draw because we played so well. Coming down to the ending of the game, Manchester City had a counter attack, and they only sent Kevin and Holland forward because they were scared of Madrid hitting them on the counter. They only sent two players forward because in I think the last 2 minutes of the game, the counter broke down, Madrid pushed forward, and 9 City players again with the ball. They were happy for that point, and that's a lot of how dangerous they know we can be in transition. However, in a technical aspect, we lack a lot, if I'm being honest, and I have to say that costed us a bit in the long term, because against City, when City started dominating, we didn't get that individual moment, and because we didn't get it, the team just couldn't pull together. And I think that's what's costed us at the end.
Yeah, the first was the first game. I mean, if you want to hear the full analysis of the 4-0 game, we're not going to dive too tactically into it, but first leg, it was good, 1-1. Yeah, I think we could have got a better result. Man City, I thought, were quite lucky to get the 1-1 in the end. And yeah, second leg, they just weren't ready. They weren't ready. It looked like they were better off staying in the dressing room. They were just completely blown away. Man City had every pass on. They couldn't physically keep up. They couldn't athletically keep up. They couldn't technically keep up. And we saw this last season at the Etihad, where we didn't play DM and we got absolutely blown away on the counter attack or any attack. We got blown away 4-3. And in this, Carlo made the same mistake. Played without a DM, and we got absolutely rinsed every time Man City came forward. They looked like they were going to score, and if it wasn't for a certain Thibaut Courtois in goal, they would have scored every time they went forward, because there was a good few chances. Haaland was, if Haaland it was like up against any other goalkeeper in the world, he would have scored, but it was Thibaut Courtois, and Courtois saved us from that being a 7-0 mauling. It was just complete embarrassment in the second leg of the Champions League, and it just showed how far ahead Manchester City are when at their best compared to our best. That's just, I think that's completely fair to say. Man City at their best are clearly the best team in Europe, are clearly so miles ahead of any other team in Europe. Bayern Munich, PSG, whoever you wanted to talk about, they're clearly ahead of everyone else. And yeah, I think condemning our season to that, I think that was quite befitting of the season. How I think that probably signalled the end of this of a bitter season. To be totally honest. So, what are your thoughts about that 4-0 game?
Yeah, like you said, it just showed how much ahead City were ahead of us. They were, of course, they had their coach for a long time. He was able to get the players that he wanted, so he was able to mold the team exactly how he wanted for years to come, and that's what he did. And of course, it just showed, yes, like you said, how far ahead they are at their best. Of course, Madrid, of course, we can pull together and be amazing, of course, but in terms of tactical readiness for a game, I think Pep does well to get his team ready, and they executed exactly what he wanted. And of course, when you look at it, you would just, of course, we were outplayed. But I've always said on this podcast, I do not want Madrid to play like how Barcelona did, or pressure like how Liverpool did at their best between 2018 to 2020. I don't want them to have a specific identity, but what I do want for Madrid is for us to have a tactical awareness of what we're going to do in big games, what we're going to do in all games, to be specific, so that we can win, so that the team can know exactly what they're doing. And sometimes we play a bit confused when things isn't going our way. And of course, that's why I think a lot of fans, they would like a younger squad, because then the younger squad can be more consistent together and play consistently together. Instead of a player tired of being injured and they have to be prepared and rested for a long time in order to play at their best. I'm not taking shots at any of the older guys, because of course they can still perform at their best. But of course, having a younger squad and a stable lineup is important and key, to knowing what you're doing tactically and technically in an important match.
Yeah. So let's look at some more positive aspects of the season, and the positive aspects are obviously the trophies that we won. We did win 3 trophies in the end of the season. Obviously, there weren't 3 trophies that we wanted. I mean, we wanted them, but realistically, they weren't the ones that excited the Real Madrid fans. And we started off the season really nicely. 2-0 win in the UEFA Super Cup final against Eintracht Frankfurt. It was a good final. It showed us that we were looking good at the start of the season. David Alaba scored, Benzema scored. It was just a good game all around from the boys, and we lifted that. That was obviously Casemiro's last game, I believe it was, for the club. I think that was quite condemning as well. But it was a good game, really nice from us. Then the Club World Cup. It was obviously, you always want to get your hands on the Club World Cup, but the caliber of opponents you're playing, as good as they are in their own rights, Al Ahly and Al Hilal, obviously they're giants in their own continents, but coming up against Real Madrid, they're not exactly capable of doing so. So we wiped Al Ahly 4-1, and then Al Hilal actually provide a genuine threat, and I think they're providing a genuine threat in the transfer market now as well. We beat them 5-3 in the final as well, and obviously that meant we lifted the Club World Cup final as well. And then we'll talk about the Copa del Rey in a second. So what are your thoughts on these trophies?
Yeah, of course, these are trophies that you have to win as the Champions League winner. If you lose, you're just going to get criticized. It's not going to be a good look for your season, not a good confidence booster, not good atmosphere, especially with the media. So, of course, it's good little confidence booster. It's good in case you have a season like this one. When you fail to win LaLiga and Champions League, you can say, hey, we won the Champions League last year. It's difficult to win it every year, but you know what, we came and we won the Club World Cup, we won the Super Cup. It's 2 additional trophies to us, So these are things, of course, we can't underestimate those trophies. We can underestimate it as a Madrid fan, and I'm sure the Madrid players will underestimate it, but I'm sure if a normal guy like me or you win one of those trophies, it's going to be one of the highlights of our careers. But for these guys, it's normal, and it's what you're going to use when you're a Madrid player or a Madrid coach to say, hey, we won 3 trophies, the Club World Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, etc. It's not that important in the long term. Nobody's going to look back in 20 years and be like the amazing Madrid team that won 3 Club World Cups back to back. They're going to say the amazing Madrid team that won 3 Champions Leagues back to back. The Club World Cup is just maybe a little bit of icing on the cake, not like the actual cake, if I'm being honest, but it's good to have with the cake.
Yeah. And then I think the highlight of our season is obviously the Copa del Rey. It started in the round of 32 against Casareño. Casareño were good. They provided a solid defence that had to be broken down by a bit of Rodrigo magic in that game. So they provided a good threat against us. But then after that, it was against Villarreal in the Copa del Rey, and we know how much of a problem that Villarreal provide for us at home. Most Madrid fans were genuinely afraid of Villarreal in that game because they went 2-0 ahead. They went 2-0 ahead, and we thought, oh, good God, it's happening again in the Copa del Rey. But a bit of Ceballos magic, I think that may have been the best game in his career. A bit of Ceballos magic, and he led us to 3 goals, 3-goal comeback, 3-2, and it was fantastic. It was a fantastic game, genuinely brilliant, and that lifted spirits around the club. That genuinely lifted spirits, and at the same time you can remember when Ancelotti was in threat at this time as well, with his job obviously in a slump of form. Obviously the manager at Real Madrid is obviously always going to get cooked in the media, but this was coming off the Supercopa final where we lost 3-1 and we were absolutely bossed around by Barcelona. And then the quarterfinal, we played against Atleti. They were all right. They weren't fantastic, but Rodrigo magic once again. It was like a really a weird finish, but it was a fantastic finish nonetheless. It was kind of deceptive. It was really, really smart from Rodrigo to do that, and I think this time Rodrigo's really pulling off his form when when Vinny was getting, this was the time when Vinny was getting I think this was the peak of the abuse, and then obviously it peaked later on in the season as well. And yeah, that was a fantastic game against Atletico, and yeah, it was really nice for us to win that game 3-1. And then we move on later on to the semi-final against Barcelona. I think first game 1-0 loss. It was quite condemning once again. It's just the fact we can't score against Barcelona. We create as many chances as we did, and it was a stupid own goal. And there's nothing better to describe that own goal as than stupid. It was completely stupid. It was just bouncing in around off Kessié, off Militao, off Nacho. It was just bouncing everywhere, and it went in. That was what won Barcelona the game. But the second leg, I mean, let's talk about the run up. What were your thoughts on the run to the second leg of that game?
Yeah, well, of course, leading up to the game against Barcelona, we had amazing comebacks against Atletico, against Villarreal. We came from 2-0 down in one, and Dani Ceballos and Asensio changed the game. These are the games where your backup players like Ceballos and Asensio should be performing, and they did. And kudos to them on that. So without them, we wouldn't have been fighting for a title in the Copa. So our backup players performed. Then against Atletico, Rodrigo scored, and then we came back. Vinicius was amazing in that game. So I believe that our backup stars, I would say, like Rodrigo, because Rodrigo is a starter, but he isn't like a superstar for the team until like halfway through the season. We started seeing it more. So I think our backup superstars, quote-unquote superstars, because of course Benzema and Vinicius is the superstars of the team. And then Rodrigo was like the third guy, and of course he started performing more consistently. And after the Atletico game, we had the opportunity to play Barcelona. That wonder game, I actually watched it in phases. However, I believe that we couldn't like throw any punches. We were doing well in possession, etc., but we just couldn't throw a punch. And of course, there are games like that, but where we couldn't link midfield to attack, and that's something that happens in Madrid. And that's why a lot of times you hear me say, hey, we miss a player like Martin Odegaard, because of course he can link defense into attack, especially when Benzema can't do it every game. Because of course one thing Martin Odegaard can't play in this Madrid team, because of course he is not the same as Bellingham, Camavinga, Valverde, and Tchouaméni. So of course I hope down the line, post Modric and Kroos, we can get them back. But nevertheless, that's something that we can look to next season. We struggle to link midfield to attack on occasions, and I think Bellingham is going to help with that. We need another guy who can help with that, if I'm being honest. So that Copa tie did give us a bit of food for thought in that aspect. But leading up to the Barcelona game, that's where I thought we had good mentality to come back, similar to the Champions League games, but we did lack on some occasions.
Yeah, then the Barcelona game, 4-0 at the Camp Nou. It was amazing. It was the best game, best Real Madrid El Clasico I've ever seen in my lifetime. I think that was just incredible. It was fantastic, and that's probably the signing off performance from Benzema. I think when we remember Benzema, I think that's the first thing that's going to come to mind, in the final season, because that was his signing off performance in his final season, and we'll obviously always going to look back on Benzema with great joy, just great memories overall, and we're obviously always going to miss him. And then, I mean, it was just an excellent performance all around. We dominated Barcelona. Second half, we were just playing with them. It was fantastic, and that was the blueprint on how to beat Barcelona. Because we should have done that in the 2 games before. We should have done that maybe we shouldn't have in the Supercopa. That was their full strength side, but I still believe we're the better team than Barcelona. And we should have done that in the 2 games before, and yet we didn't. They didn't have any of their players. We didn't have Pedri. They didn't have Ousmane Dembele. And yet they beat us still, and I think this was destined to happen, because we deserved to win the games 2 before. And I think at the end of the day, I think that makes up for a little bit in our season. I think that obviously doesn't make up for the poor LaLiga showing, poor Champions League showing, but nonetheless, I think still it's a fantastic performance, and one that we'll look back on in years to come as fantastic, as brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, the Copa isn't always like the main trophy, but we haven't won it in so long. This final win felt so special. If I'm being honest, we definitely played so well in that game on occasions. Of course, we didn't dominate the entire 90 minutes, but we were so clinical. Barcelona had the chances to be 2-0 up, 1-0 up, but we have to look back and say, what are the positives in that game? We can look at the negatives. Yes, there were negatives in the game. Had Barcelona got 2-0 up, maybe we wouldn't have come back. But Courtois saved us just 10 seconds before that Benzema goal. He made the Lewandowski save, counter-attack goal. That shows how dangerous and deadly we can be. So when you look at it and you look back at the Madrid game, you can see some of our best aspects in terms of counter-attacking football. Vinicius, Benzema, Trigo, they were amazing on the night. But the 4-0 win, I think it's one of the highlights of the season after the Liverpool game, if I'm being honest, and after the Vinicius goal in the first leg. I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to put it, I'm going to put that as number 2 because, of course, we are a better team than Barcelona. And, of course, I'll put the Liverpool one as number 3. And in my opinion, the highlight of the season was the first leg against Manchester City, despite the fact that we got knocked out. Had we won that game, we would have proven to be one of the most dominating teams in the world because we dominated Manchester City. Because we didn't dominate Barcelona that game, but we dominated Manchester City, and that's why I'm going to say that's one of the highlights of my season because I know what we are capable of. But going back to the Barcelona game, of course, when you look back at it, like you said, Benzema scored his final hat trick for the club. Well, not his final hat trick for the club, but his second time hat trick for the club against a big team. And you can't forget that hat trick that led us to the Copa win.
Yeah, and then obviously the final, Osasuna were a formidable opponent. They were actually fantastic in that final, and they were unlucky not to win it because I think it was quite even in that final. I think we were lucky to edge that just, but I think 2-1 in the end. It was a good result. Fantastic stuff from Rodrigo, who was the match winner on the night, and yeah, Copa del Rey after how long? 9 years? 9 years, I think. It's obviously an achievement which we don't see often, and yeah, I was very, very happy with that final, very, very happy with that performance, and very, very happy with that trophy. That's we can always hang our heads up on that, and yeah, we're happy with that at the end of the day. Just making sure that Barcelona don't get a domestic sweep. So, what are your thoughts on the Copa del Rey win?
Yeah, of course, the final as well. It was a good final because it gave us confidence for the Manchester City game, and it was a tournament we haven't won in 9 years. I think it's 9 years. Yes, 9 years, and we won it. And now we can definitely get that champion off our back. And of course, Barcelona didn't win a domestic treble, which is good. You would hate if your rivals that, of course, when they did it before, we were winning Champions Leagues back to back. So I think most of us didn't really care. We cared, but of course, it wasn't like, it was something that's going to affect us. So yeah.
Yes, a later version of me is here now, but yeah, the video continues from here on now. Obviously, it was cut out, so yeah, kind of continue with the podcast from here. And we're going to start with Carlo Ancelotti because I think he didn't do enough to maximise the output of the team, to be honest. I think individually, he obviously, Valverde had his best scoring season, Asensio had his best scoring season, Vinicius had his best scoring season. However, they could have had more. They could have more. I think in little games such as, let's say, the 0-0 against Real Sociedad comes to mind. Yeah, that was the game where we absolutely outplayed the Real Sociedad. We were better than Real Sociedad across that whole game, and yet we fell short. We fell short because we didn't have enough individually. We didn't have enough, in terms of patterns of play. We didn't have enough in terms of all that, and that comes down to a coaching problem. That is strictly a coaching problem, not down to the players. If you look at games where we concede incredible amount of goals, I mean, the Girona game, the latter stage of the season, 4-2. We conceded 4 goals. Obviously, we had thrown the towel in by that point. The game against Almeria recently as well, two goals we conceded there. And, obviously the 4-0 against Manchester City. Barcelona, we've obviously conceded quite a few goals to. Liverpool, we conceded 2 goals to. Al Hilal, we conceded 3 to. All of these games, we conceded a hell of a lot of goals, and that's got to go down to Carlo Ancelotti. He has to know how to coach a defence. He has to know how to find a way to minimise the chances that Courtois receives. Because the amount of chances is not that many. Courtois doesn't receive that many chances. The problem is that the volume of the quality of chances that he receives is just incredible. It's just you should not be facing that level of chance every single game without fail. And Courtois, he does a fantastic job of keeping those chances out. But I remember at the start of the season, he hadn't kept a clean sheet in a hell of a long time. I can't remember when that hoodoo broke, but that tells you a lot about where that went wrong. And then in terms of the board, let's finish up with the board, because we needed reinforcements. We needed reinforcements at the end of last season. Benzema needed a backup. It's as simple as that. Benzema needed a backup, and he didn't get it. We didn't get a backup to Benzema. That was bad from us. Then we needed a right back. It looks like we're not going to get that either this season, and that's obviously stupid from us. Another attacker we probably needed as well. At points we needed looked tired. Rodrigo looked tired. We needed an option to switch up. Asensio's not inconsistent, and obviously Asensio's leaving now, so that provides another issue for us. We needed a left back, and we're getting that now with Fran Garcia, but. Last season we needed a left back, and we had to hold Camavinga there for the end of last season. And although that was good in some games, it was quite bad in others. The 4-0 against Man City, he was just he could have been targeted. He was targeted, and it looked like it completely backfired on us. Stuff like this goes down to the board. So in terms of it, I think Carlo Ancelotti could have done better tactically. There was obviously defensive issues and attacking issues that we've had during the season, and although he's maximised the individual output, I think he could have done more. He could have done more in this game, in this title race. And I think in terms of the board, they should have bought more signings. It should not have just been Tchouaméni and Rudiger last season. Those two were good signings, but they were not. Tchouaméni was not necessary considering we had Casemiro, and although I think we needed to transition, and I think Tchouaméni is a fantastic signing. And then Rudiger was obviously essential in my opinion. So Rudiger was fair enough, we needed him, but we needed more. And although we are seeing that now with Bellingham coming in, Fran Garcia coming in, Brahim's going to get treated as a new signing. I don't think many Madrid fans are excited about that one, but Mbappe, there's possibly Kane. Probably not Havertz, but that was an option. That was an option early on. Alphonso Davies is getting looked at. We're getting these links, and these are solid, concrete links for the first time in a long time. So, they're looking to build upon that. So, what are your thoughts on Carlo and the board's performance?
Yeah, I believe that Carlo Ancelotti did well for some of the season. I think he did well in important games. Sometimes, I think that he used the squad decently. The new signings, he integrated them well. I will get to his biggest mistake of the season shortly, but I would just say that, he needs a bit more signings. He needs to stop, in my opinion, stay a bit loyal to the same thing a bit too long. And I think that's maybe what his biggest downfall was this season. We cannot go into a big game against Manchester City with Kroos and Modric as playing together, because of course we do lose a lot of intensity, as harsh as it sounds, and we did it last year, we did it this year against Liverpool and Chelsea, but he was loyal to that a bit too much, and it costed us at the end. He was also loyal to the Militao-Alaba partnership. In my opinion, that costed us against Manchester City, because he benched the best player in the first leg, which was nobody understand. And so of course, you have to find a way to play the best players. I believe that Militao had a good season, but he is not, in my opinion, a better defender than Rudiger. Um, we have a lot of staff in this community for the Real Madrid committee page, and of course you as well. Some would think Militao is better, some would think Rudiger is better. For me, Militao is better. He's amazing at taking steps forward, but he isn't better in big games. Like Tony has shown
Rudiger was
in.
better to Mark Holland because of the mental edge.
Yeah, and definitely, and let's not forget how good he played when Chelsea won against City in the final. He played against him a lot of times. He'd have been, I think, the guy to do it, in my opinion. He's more calm on the ball. Um, yeah, I believe that was a mistake, in my opinion. I do believe so, and I would definitely look and think the Carlo Ancelotti. I know that Alba Militao won you the Champions League last year, but it wasn't the same. They said they did well, but it wasn't the same, and that's why we signed another world-class player for competition, and of course, because Alba can play left back. But why you bench the best player in the first leg? And I would always say that was the defining point of the season, in my opinion. In relation to the board last year, we didn't give him the signings, but this year we are trying to. There are still some players that we need to sign to fill up the squad. If we don't sign Mbappe, I hope that we look for another right back and another forward. You know, just finish it next season and then take steps forward from there, because we are saving for stars, but we need to just plug some gaps in the team that can cost us, in the long, not in the long term, that can cost us next season. So those simple gaps, like I said, we don't need to sign those expensive signings. Look how cheap Garcia was, bargain. We have Diaz back. And of course, I don't think that Diaz should be a Sensio's replacement. Let's say Diaz is Eden Hazard's replacement, and it sounds much better, doesn't it? Hoslu isn't a Benzema replacement, it's one from Mariano, and it sounds much better. So I'm quite happy that we have these guys back, and you have to look, I guess, at the positives of it.
Yeah. So just to finish up, let's give some ratings on the season as a whole. And so let's start with the results. If I was to give the results a rating out of 10, I would give them. I think there were some fantastic results, i.e. the Barcelona one. I think that was fantastic, but there were some bad ones. 4-0 against Manchester City, obviously. So I think overall I would give the results a 5 out of 10. I think there were some good ones, but there were also some bad ones to balance it out. So I would go 5 out of 10 for the results. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give it for the season 6.5, if I'm being honest, because I think 5 might be a bit too low for me. I think last year I'll give it a 8. In terms of performances, I'll give it a 7 last year. In terms of what we accomplished, it's a 9 last year. Performances last year, 7. This year, I'll give performances a 5. I'll give the season, in terms of what we won, 6.5. Over 2 seasons, it's a 8.
Yeah, I agree. Then with the players, I think it's hard to rank the players. If I was to if I was to separate the good ones and the bad ones, I would say the players that were good were excellent, but the players that were bad were really bad at points. So I'd say, again, I would go for 6 for the players. I think some of the players were just fantastic, but players, I'm not going to single them out, but some of the players were really bad at points. So I think, yeah, 6.5 for this one. I would agree for this one. So what about you? What were the players?
Yeah, I would definitely stick with your analysis for that one. The first month that were good, they were over and above, like the ones that had their best outputs, they were amazing. But other than that, some were disappointing and well below standards.
Yeah. Next up, the Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti, I think for Carlo, he could have done better. He could have done better at points, but it was like a lamb to the slaughter with the signings that he got. He got no signings, and I think the season reflected that. I think the season reflected that he didn't get the guys that he needed, and therefore I can't overly criticize him. But he didn't do the best that he could have. So I'll give him a 6 out of 10. It wasn't a great season from Carlo, but it's not all his fault. We can't pretend like it's all his fault. So what are your thoughts on that?
6 or 7 or 8, because of titles. But in terms of tactical and technical week, maybe 5.5, honestly, because that's our downfall this season.
Yeah, and then finally the board. With the board, I think it was just poor. You should have got more signings. The signings you got were good, but there was not enough, and therefore that has to be it. I think that therefore you've got to give them a 2. I'm giving them a 2 out of 10. The signings you got were great, but we needed more, and that I'm gonna give them a 2 out of 10. What about you?
For me, I would definitely say that from the board, I would say for what we accomplished for the past 2 seasons, the board didn't do enough to what we accomplished. We have to look at their work over the past 5 seasons and the signings that they made. In Militao, Chico Vinicius, Valverde, and all these guys stepping up. So we have to say Camavinga as well. So you have to say for the past 5 seasons, we have to say, yeah, it's amazing. It's like an 8. But however, for the last 2 seasons, what we won wasn't on the signings we made over the last 2 seasons. So I'll give it for the last 2 seasons 6. And that's only because we signed Camavinga. And Alaba and Tony was good. And Fitch chances and Sherman was good. The feature did well for the season. So I'll give it a 6, but for the past 5 seasons, that's what won us these titles. The work we did in the past 5 seasons.
Yeah, and then overall, this is the final part. We won 3 trophies, but they weren't the ones that we wanted. Copa del Rey we did want. The players were, Vinny was fantastic, Camavinga was fantastic, Rodrigo was fantastic, Valverde started off fantastic. There were points at which we were fantastic, but it did end in an anticlimax. We could have done better. We should have done better, and to lose the league in that way to Barcelona, I think it's unforgivable. To have that league wrapped up basically in February, that's not on. And for me, I would give a 4 out of 10 for the season. I think it just wasn't. You can't to crash out of the Champions League, crash and burn the way you did, and then to have the league wrapped up in February. I think, yeah, it's got to be a 4 out of 10 for me.
For me, I would say out of 10, this I would give it a bit higher, 5, because I would look at the positive points as well. But in terms of looking from a holistic point of view, in terms of the negative parts, I could understand why, you would give it a 4. But for me, just to be courteous, I would say 5.
Okay, yeah, so that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this season review. Obviously we're looking to right our wrongs. Bellingham's obviously come in at the time of recording. Bellingham is right now presenting. I think he may have done the presentation by now, but he's obviously done that. Fran Garcia's come in, Brahim Diaz. The Mbappe rumours are back. The less said about that, the better. But obviously the Mbappe rumours are back. Harry Kane, Hosselu, all these guys, there are obviously rumours with. I couldn't record on Sunday because my voice was absolutely ruined. But obviously we're back now. I'm fine now, so we're all good. Yeah, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.